Alright, so you have done amazingly well to get onto a vacation scheme. Before I start this video, I want to give you all a massive congratulations. Here's a video where I'm going to rattle through 10 do's and 10 don'ts on a vacation scheme. I've already done a YouTube video. I think it was my third YouTube video I've ever done, and that was on virtual vacation schemes and my tips for that. So please do watch that video as well if you'd want some supplementary information after you've watched this video. By way of introduction, my name is Simranjeet Mann. I am a trainee solicitor for a UK top 20 law firm, and I make videos for aspiring solicitors. I make content on general careers advice, on personal development, as well as vlogging my journey to becoming a solicitor and beyond. And specifically for this video, you might want to know I have done 3 vacation schemes in the past. One was in 2018 with a Big 4 firm from which I was rejected, and a lot of what I did there will form into that don't section of the video. And I did 2 vacation schemes the summer after that in 2019. I feel so old giving years now. It's been like, yeah, 2 years, wow. And yeah, in 2019 I did 2 vacation schemes, both of which I converted into training contract offers. Now a lot of what I did in that year will be forming part of my do section of this video. It's also important to bear in mind that I did my vacation schemes in person because things like COVID-19 did not exist in the good old days, but that doesn't mean that the tips I'm going to give are not applicable. I will try to make them as applicable as I can to a virtual setting. Because I've also started my training contract 8 or 9 weeks ago now, I have started virtually, so I have an idea about what it's like to be working and start working in a new place completely as a brand new person, as someone that people don't really know. So I'll be drawing on those elements and my experiences there as well in this video. Right, let's jump straight into the do's. What should you be doing on a vacation scheme? Now I've got 10 things here as part of this section. Before starting your vacation scheme, read around the topic of the practice area you may be joining in, read around the firm, read around any latest developments with the firm. In particular with the practice area, sometimes the firm tells you which practice area you're going to be in before you start your vacation scheme. Sometimes they tell you during your vacation scheme, like on the first day, they give you a sheet and you're like, this is the team that you're going to be in. Now, during that kind of period before the vacation scheme and also the first couple of days in the vacation scheme, one thing that I used to do was I would read up on the practice area itself. So say if I was placed in the corporate team, what do corporate lawyers in that firm do? So I'd find that information from the firm's website. What clients do they work with? What kind of work do they do within corporate? Because for different firms that changes. What's their structure like within their teams? And which offices are involved within that practice area as well. And also I'd familiarize myself with key definitions within that practice area and key documents. For example, building on that corporate example that I gave to you, if I was in a corporate seat, I would be finding out what the difference is, for example, between a share sale and an asset sale, what SPA is, all that kind of basic knowledge, I guess. And then you can bring that knowledge into your VAC scheme should you need it. Second tip, do a welcome email that introduces yourself to your team. Now, sometimes, usually on your first day, you are assigned a buddy, and your buddy is the person who goes around, typically in the law firm, they would go around and introduce you. In a virtual setting, I would assume perhaps your buddy may email your team and say, this is Simran, she has just joined our team as a VAC schemer, blah, blah, blah. If that doesn't happen and you feel like you have no way of introducing yourself to the team, do that yourself. Send out welcome emails yourself. And that was something that came across really positively in one of my vacation schemes. My buddy had to go to a last minute hearing, so there was no one really to introduce me to the rest of my team. So I knocked on everyone's doors and basically introduced myself that way. Obviously, triple check that email so many times before sending it off. And in that email, you can have a short introduction about yourself. You can talk about which uni you came from, your hobbies, your interests. Obviously, try not to go into a massive spiel, like they're not going to read all of that. And then at the end, you can say, well, if anyone needs any help with anything, I'm more than happy to help out with anything. So really kind of offering yourself there to be available to help out with anything. Now, my third tip for vacation schemes to do well in vacation schemes is take initiative in interacting with people in the firm. So for example, one thing that I do even now as a trainee, if I attended a training session or if I attended a meeting hosted by someone who I really resonated with, say if they mentioned a particular task that they do within that practice area that you just found really interesting, one thing that I did even now on my training contract is I emailed that person after the event, after the meeting, and I said, I found this really interesting. Please let me know if any work within this comes up, because I would love to find out. Lo and behold, that same evening, I got given work about that, and the same person gave me praise and said, that's, you know, you're actually spot on for doing that kind of thing. So that's what I mean by taking initiative. Whatever opportunity, whatever event comes your way, try and see that as a way of interacting with someone or forming a new relationship, professional relationship with someone in the firm. Another way in which you can do this, for example, is if you have been assigned a buddy or a supervisor, you can have a look at their calendar as well on Outlook. And if they have something on their calendar, a certain kind of deadline or a meeting, offer to attend that as well. And that shows that you're taking initiative to go out of your way to meet people in the firm. And that shows that you are being keen, you're being enthusiastic to take on more work. Also, for example, say if you did attend a meeting or if you came across anyone that you just really resonated with and you just want to have a catch up with them privately, just do that as well. Your vacation scheme is what you make of it as well. A lot of people tend to think you're in the vacation scheme and it's only you being assessed. However, I tend to think of it as like a two-way street. You are also making most of your time there in the firm as well, because you're gaining an insight that not many people gain. So I would just say, if you want to talk to someone, if you want to get to know the background of someone, their journey, do make that effort to reach out to them. My fourth tip is something that I still apply now during my training contract, and it's always over delivering. Always thinking, what can I do to make this person's life easier? Let me give you some examples. If you are invited to attend a meeting with a client, offer to take an attendance note for the rest of the team while you're in that meeting. But obviously, if you do offer to do that, make sure you are familiarized with what an attendance note is, what the precedents usually look like, how the firm usually does their attendance notes. So that's something that you need to do beforehand before offering to take on extra tasks. If, for example, you have decided to set up a virtual coffee catch-up with a partner in your team, take the initiative to help them out, make their life a little bit easier and send them the calendar invite rather than waiting for them to send it to you. If you're doing a researching task for an individual, make sure, for example, to make their lives a little bit easier again, include the sources or the links that you used when you were researching and what you found useful, essentially. Include that in a document as well, so then they can then look at the sources for themselves later on, so it saves them that hassle. So all along, for every single task that you're doing, you're always trying to over deliver, go beyond the objective. My fifth tip is, when you are attending meetings, say if you have hosted a virtual coffee catch up with someone in the team, make sure you prepare beforehand, have some questions ready, find out a bit more about them, find out a bit more about the practice area that, you know, the meeting is going to be about. For example, in one of my vacation schemes, I knew that I was going to be attending an event about networking. So what I did was I actually just looked at the do's and don'ts of networking before the event. Even though some of those points I already knew myself, I was able to contribute significantly because I was, you know, I had done that background research on something that is usually quite simple to understand. My sixth tip, keep a diary during your vacation scheme. Journal everything that you've done. And this is really, really useful for final training contract interviews, because usually in those kind of interviews, the questions that I've been typically asked is, how has your view of the firm changed since your vacation scheme started? Has the firm matched your expectations? What was your most challenging task that you've done on this vacation scheme? How did you overcome that? So you get a lot of reflective questions that are asked about your vacation scheme experience. Like, what would you do to make this vacation scheme better? Those kind of questions do crop up in final training contract interviews. And I felt like having a diary that just kind of documented my thoughts throughout the process, throughout the week that I spent at the firm, really, really helped me. Now, in your diary, what you can mention, for example, are things like the tasks that you did day to day, who you spoke to, like full names, because if you want to contact them later on LinkedIn, you know, you have their full names there. You can also document what stood out to you about the firm, your likes, your dislikes, because there may be dislikes about the firm that you think of and you're just like, oh, actually, I'm not sure whether I even like that. So definitely write those down as well. Talk about any challenges, anything that, you know, when you looked at the firm, you thought, wow, like that's amazing. Note that down. My seventh tip, keep your phone and any other distractions in another room. James Clear talks about this in his book Atomic Habits. He says that if you want to work in a productive environment, you have control over what's in your environment in terms of what's around you, because your brain is always scanning the environment, analyzing ways of being like, okay, what do I do next? What do I do next? And for me personally, if I have my phone on the table, I will reach out to it and I will grab it and I will end up going on Instagram or something. So keeping your phone and any other things that keep you distracted out of sight, out of mind, especially perhaps in another room, because then it just means that you are focusing entirely on that week itself. It's important to remember that this is your 1 week to get involved with this firm as much as you can, or 2 weeks, however long the vacation scheme is. I'd hate for just distractions to get in the way of me performing well, me concentrating well, me getting involved in as much as I can. My 8th tip during the vacation scheme is to practice self-confidence. I would recommend that you start doing this from now to, the rest of your life, because I think it's really important to have confidence in yourself. I do have a video about this, about how I built my confidence, which you can see via the link above. And essentially, the reason why I think it's important is when you're on a vacation scheme, you understand that, there are other competitors who are also competing for that same spot on a vacation scheme. It's very easy to get bogged down by someone, just who looks like they know everything. They talk the talk, they walk the walk, and you're just like, how do I even compare to that? And I think one thing that really helped me in converting my vacation schemes to training contract offers was understanding that I had done well to get this far in the process. And all I can do now is prove to the firm that they made a right choice in picking me for the vacation scheme, and then extending that further to a training contract offer. My 9th tip is really kind of go out of your comfort zone. Don't be afraid to do that. Let me give you one example. I was in a meeting that all the other VAC schemers, including myself, we were kind of invited to last minute. So it was a meeting that wasn't really aimed for us. It was more so aimed towards loads of members of the firm, but they just invited us to go to it anyway. And they asked a question, and because I'd done my research before the meeting, I was able to contribute. Now, before in my head I was thinking, should I put my hand up? Should I not? Should I contribute to this? And at that stage, no other VAC schemer had either contributed or answered any of the questions that the speaker had asked. And in my head I was just thinking, this is a meeting for internal members of the team. I've not really joined the team yet, I'm just a VAC schemer. Basically what happened was, the person asked the question, I knew the answer to it, like I knew I had a good answer for it as well. So I put my hand up and then I answered the question, it was correct. And a lot of people just felt like, oh, like that's really good that you answered. And again, it went back in my feedback that in a meeting where it would have probably been really daunting for me to answer that question, I answered anyway, and I put myself forward for that. And that was seen as, it was really respected. Doing things like that push you outside your comfort zone, I highly recommend, because they do make you stand out. And my 10th tip, I guess this more so goes towards the virtual setting, is do be prepared for IT. The biggest issue with working from home right now is IT issues. It can be such a pain, and if you are someone, for example, who really struggles with your Wi-Fi connection, that might be something you want to consider before starting your vacation scheme, because I would hate for your vacation scheme to get, ruined because you keep dropping in and out of meetings. One thing you can do, for example, perhaps is increase the data on your phone and just hotspot for that week. Vacation schemes are generally paid for, so if you decide to take any temporary measures during that week to increase your internet connection, definitely do that. If you are someone who is unable to do that, definitely let the firm know that you face internet issues, because the outside is opening back up a little bit. I'm not sure whether they would allow you to do this, but maybe even coming into the office may be an option. So do be open with that aspect as well, because obviously not everyone has the greatest internet in the world. We've all been struggling with that. But one thing you can do to mitigate IT issues really kind of driving you around the bend is being early. So if you've got a meeting scheduled at 9 o'clock, try and log in for that meeting around 8:50, 8:55, because it just means that, you are prepared for any kind of eventuality of, like, say if the meeting link is wrong, or if you've been given the wrong invitation, you're able to be aware of that quicker because you signed in early rather than doing everything last minute. And if there are any issues that do arise and do crop up during your vacation schemes in respect of IT issues, do know the contact details of the IT service desk or, the IT team in your firm. just have that handy with you, just in case you ever need to reach out to someone and just be like, oh my god, this is not happening, how do I do this? Right, so that was 10 do's. Now let's move on to 10 don'ts. Firstly, don't be complacent. Don't think that because you've got on a vacation scheme, you'll get a training contract easy. That was one of the reasons why I got rejected from my Big 4 vacation scheme in 2018. Just don't be complacent. Don't put your foot off the gas. Number 2, don't engage in gossip or drama in your cohort with other vacation schemers or with other trainees. Don't start chatting crap about other vacation schemers to trainees in your team. Honestly, gossip and drama is not worth it. Like, it's never worth it in like whatever situation you're in, but especially during a situation where you are being assessed. Just allow it. Just allow it. It's not worth it, sis. It's not worth it. Number 3, don't go absolutely wild at socials. I mean, to be fair, if you're doing a virtual vacation scheme, I think this might be a little bit like, I don't think this will happen as much. But to be fair, everything's opening up like hopefully 21st of June anyway. So this probably might be relevant to those of you who are doing a vacation scheme in July, for example, when everything hopefully opens back up. But don't let alcohol get the best of you. And don't forget that because you are, for example, outside of the office, you might be at a bar, we've done things like mini golf, we've done things like, there was another one. We did like ping pong. Don't think that because you are in those settings, your professionalism fades away. It becomes very easy to forget that you are still being assessed, especially when, for example, you start seeing the trainees who are similar ages to yourselves perhaps, and you start seeing them as like your friends. Of course, the trainees, they're going to be friendly as hell, but they are not your friends. Like, they are sometimes even involved in the assessment process itself. So one thing you don't want to do is go absolutely wild at a social and jeopardize your chance of getting a training contract because of that, because you are seen as someone who can't handle like professional situations outside of the office. My 4th don't for vacation schemes is don't put half-hearted effort into certain pieces of work. Sometimes you may get a piece of work given to you and they might say, Simran, only spend around 5 minutes on this. I only want a couple of lines for this. And for me, you know, what I did was, even though that person gave me that work and they kind of alluded to the fact that there doesn't need to be a lot of detail into it, I still put 100% in, because at the end of the day, every piece of work that you do forms part of the assessment. Every single person that you've interacted with forms part of that assessment. So say if someone asked me to write a couple of lines, I'm not gonna lie, I would probably jazz it up a little bit more. I would put more of an effort. If someone says spend 5 minutes on something, of course, bearing in mind other tasks that I've got, if someone told me to spend 5 minutes on something, I most likely will probably spend 15, just double checking everything. Now, my 5th tip kind of links to the one beforehand, but it's don't take tasks unseriously. Is unseriously a word? I'm gonna make it a word, but you guys know what I mean. Don't take a task unseriously because you know the person who's assessing you. Now, let me give you an example with this. So basically, for my Big 4 vacation scheme, we had to do a moot. So an example kind of like advocacy kind of situation where we acted like we were in court. And the judges were people who were actually in my practice area, so my team. So I'd already kind of built, like, I guess, a bit of banter with them. So I felt like I knew them quite well. And I guess I kind of forgot in that element that I was actually in a moot, not my team, like in a normal discussion. So when they asked me questions, sometimes I'd like smile, sometimes like I'll just act or drop that kind of professional demeanor. And that came back in my feedback because I scored quite low on that, because they said that, you know, you're someone who can't maintain professionalism. My 6th don't is don't let the numbers put you off. Now, what I mean by this is I have been on vacation schemes, for example, where I think they've accepted around 12 people in the vacation scheme. And out of that, there's only going to be like 3 or 4 that go through and get a training contract. So it's a little bit unnerving when you know that, like, you start doing all the percentages in your head and the fractions. So like, what's 3 out of 12? That's like a quarter. You just know that like only a quarter are getting through. And that number can like really kind of mess with your head and really kind of affect your performance. So that's one thing I would really say as well, is make sure you are not getting bogged down by the numbers. My 7th tip, don't let your performance in one task affect the way you treat other tasks in the future during your vacation scheme. And this goes both ways. So for one of my vacation schemes, I had to do a group task, and this did not go well for me. I really did not think this went well. And it came back in my feedback as well that I didn't do well in that particular task. And what I did was I could have easily just kind of let that be like, right, that's it, my TC's gone. I'm gonna like just, I don't really care about the rest of my performance now. Like, I know it's already been taken away from me. I could have easily gone down that route, but I didn't. Instead, I just said, well, okay, let me just try my best in everything else that I do after this. It may kind of mitigate what happened. And that's exactly what happened. In my feedback, albeit I did really badly in that task, they saw that I was so strong in my other tasks that they offered me the training contract anyway. So do bear in mind that you don't have to have an absolute 100% stellar performance. Of course, it's competitive. Try your best in everything. If you do have an 100% stellar performance in everything, then most likely, you will be offered the training contract, but don't be disheartened by the performance of one task. Conversely, as well, if you feel like you've absolutely smashed a task, don't let that overconfidence mean that you take the foot off the pedal for the other tasks. It's all about your whole rounded performance. 8th tip, don't act like you don't care. Like, this is one of those situations where you don't want to act like you're cool, like you're too cool for this kind of thing. Like, you have to be cool, you have to be keen, you have to be enthusiastic, you have to be a geek on a vacation, you have to. And there are certain things, like certain situations that I was just cringing at myself, like, Sim, come on, like, you're too cool for this, man. Like, you know, why are you acting like such a beg for? But honestly, like, it does have to be like that. You have to look keen and enthusiastic in what you do. Don't be afraid of being like, don't be afraid to put your hand up for something because, other people are going to think like you're a geek. This is your vacation scheme, like your time to shine. Like, who cares about what the other people are doing? If you want to put yourself out for something, just do it. And don't really care about that element of like, I'm going to act like I don't care about this kind of thing. I'm unbothered, that kind of thing. My 9th tip, don't ignore the red flags in the firm itself. Be mindful that just as much as the firm's assessing you, you are assessing the firm. And if something in the firm doesn't seem right to you, doesn't, make you feel comfortable, note that down and find out why it is. Why is it that this certain element in a firm doesn't suit you? And if you are back in the process, if you are applying to other firms, then that's obviously a great thing because you can look out for that certain thing in other firms that you're applying for. And if a firm does have that element, then you won't apply to them. So it ends up becoming something where you are able to find out what works for you and what doesn't in your workplace. And tip number 10, don't think that because you are doing your vacation scheme virtually that you should take a foot off the pedal in terms of professionalism. Still make sure you are dressed smartly for your meetings, for just the vacation scheme as a whole. Make sure, for example, that you maintain eye contact in the camera. Make sure that your background during the vacation scheme is professional. It's behind the camera. I think that's really important as well. And yeah, okay, that's everything that I think I've got in terms of vacation schemes. Good luck for your vacation scheme. I hope it goes incredibly well. If this video helped you, drop me a message. Let me know how it helped you out. Let me know how your vacation scheme went. I'd love to find out. And wishing you all the best. I hope those vacation schemes convert into training contract offers. Sending lots and lots of love and peaceful vibes to you all. Thank you for watching. See you all in the next video.